Standing in front of the Christchurch Cathedral, where a magnitude 6.3 earthquake brought the city to a deadly standstill. A month later, Japan also experienced one of their deadliest disasters, killing nearly 16,000, displacing 250,000 people, all because of the second largest nuclear disaster in the world. Earlier this year, I had the chance to visit a couple of towns near the Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant to show you how their rebuild is going. The story starts with the magnitude 9 earthquake on March the 11th at 2:45, just off the coast of northern Japan, where it shook the country for nearly 5 minutes. 10 to 60 minutes later, a 10 to 15 metre tsunami hit various towns, causing massive destruction to everywhere it went. The very next day, the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant started to have a meltdown, leading to a widespread evacuation of people within the area. My journey starts in front of Tokyo Station, where my tour guide has given me a Geiger counter to see the radiation levels in Tokyo and compare it to where we're going. As we start to get closer and closer to Fukushima, we start to see things like abandoned buildings, trucks carrying contaminated soil, areas stacked up with big black bags also filled with contaminated soil. The readings of radiation start to climb as we get closer and closer too. We also see huge solar farms, as farmers cannot use their land any other way now. And what is part of the rebuild are new towns being built to house the many workers that have to work here on a daily basis. Namie is a town located in the Fukushima prefecture on the coast and had a population of nearly 18,000 people, but now it is around about 1,200, of which most are workers helping with the rebuild. The economy of Namie was mainly commercial fishing, agriculture and food processing, but because of the fear amongst the population of eating radiation contaminated food, all of this has stopped. The town was severely affected by the earthquake and tsunami, sustaining considerable damage from them both, but the town was evacuated en masse on the morning of March the 12th, as it is located within the 20-kilometre exclusion zone around the damaged nuclear power plant. We're able to see both the rebuild and the destruction left as they were 9 years ago. Places where people were eating, sleeping, working or even at school, and then they just had to run for survival, not thinking they wouldn't be coming back for 9 years. And getting a bit of an idea of what it's like, you know, the rebuild, you know, the destruction of the earthquake and people not being here for a while and whatnot. This part of the town, the actual tsunami didn't make it to. This is quite much higher ground than when the where the actual port and ocean is. They're a little bit south that way. So mainly this is just from the earthquake, the damage from the earthquake, because just off the coast here is where the actual 9.0 magnitude earthquake actually struck. So the earthquake happened, and then the tsunami came. The rebuild here has taken off since the order to reopen the town in 2017 was lifted. Little by little, the debris has been cleared. Old buildings are being demolished. People and businesses are coming back. March this year, the very first train arrived at the station. New roads and buildings are being built, and even a new 7-Eleven convenience store was opened this year. People are coming back and rebuilding their homes and planting gardens. There is even a small little shopping centre on the main street filled with restaurants and shops selling local goods and meals for the workers and tours. Our next stop is to the Ecuador port and coastline. This area is being built pretty quickly, with the port and new Tsunami wall being built. There are only a few buildings left standing from the tsunami, as most were swept away. You can also see just how close we are to the nuclear power plant at around 5 kilometres. The Ecuador Primary School is one of the few buildings still standing, which is located a mere 200 metres from the coastline, and in an earthquake or tsunami, it is a designated evacuation point for the town. At the time of the earthquake, there were about 80 students aged between 6 and 12 at the school, so it was suggested to keep the kids there. Thankfully, the staff decided to take the students to a nearby hill where they were safe. The clock stopped at 3:38 when the tsunami hit the school and cut power to the clock. Things have been tidied up a little bit since then, but you can see the damage the huge wave did. You can even see the watermark on the side of the building at about 10 metres high, so no one would have survived if they had stayed here. Surprisingly, the radiation levels here are not much higher than that in Tokyo, even though we are so close to the power plant, and also thousands of bags filled with contaminated soil taken from around this area. Most areas now have been decontaminated, except for a few places just west of the nuclear power plant, which we're about to head through. We take a little detour off the main road and are told we cannot stop here, otherwise we'll be in serious trouble. But we get a good look of the nuclear power plant through the cranes. We can see a couple of the towers to the reactors too. We are just only 3 kilometres away, but are told that this is a decontaminated area and the Geiger counter doesn't show very high levels either. But moments later we go through one of the hardest areas to decontaminate, which is a forest, and then the levels jump up 3, 4, 5, even 8 before slowly coming back down.
What is going on? Oh yes, because in the forest.
We all have a bit of a laugh about how high it got, but at the same time we're a little bit concerned and wonder if we made the right decision to come here. As we drive through the no stopping zone west of the power plant, we start to see more and more brave people that have to come here every day to work to make this area livable again. We're heading to the south side of the power plant through an area where people still cannot come back to, and we're not allowed to stop. They call it the Barricade Street because of all the barricades blocking the entrances to people's houses. Petrol stations, pachinko parlours, restaurants and various other stores are just left the way they were evacuated. Sure, some have been vandalised, but for the most part they stay abandoned and contaminated. Here we see the Sega Sonic Game Centre, which was featured in the Netflix doco Dark Tourist. Tomioka is a small town 6 to 10 kilometres on the south side of the nuclear power plant, which was affected in the same way as Namie was. The population used to be around 21,000, but like Namie, most of the people here are workers, although they have seen a few people coming back in recent times, with the hospital having its first baby born since the disaster in 2011. The area here had a lot of damage from both the earthquake and the tsunami, so they have put a lot of time and effort into building the port and the tsunami wall to protect the town so close by. You get to see just how high the tsunami was here, reaching up to where those brown makeshift buildings are, which sort of gives you a bit of false hope when you see how high they are building the new tsunami walls. A little bit closer to the nuclear power plant is a street that in springtime is lined with beautiful cherry blossom trees, where on one side is open for people to return home and on the other side is closed because it still hasn't been decontaminated yet. The police roam around to catch anyone trying to return to their homes or people trying to steal anything in the area. They even ask, "Why are we here?" My tour guide finishes with a short speech trying to persuade me to promote this area as a safe area to live and that the radiation isn't a problem. But at the same time, I understand why almost 60% of residents have decided never to come back here. It has been a tiring and long day touring this area, but I have seen how two small towns are working hard to rebuild themselves from 3 disasters, one of which will take at least another 20 to 50 years to fix.